Same job, different toxic boss. Same neighborhood, different annoying neighbor. Same dating app, different person who puts you in the friend zone. Have you noticed this pattern? Like there's some invisible magnet that always attracts the same types of problems into your life? Well, I have news for you. It's not bad luck. It's not coincidence. And it's definitely not because you were born unlucky. This is Freud without mysteries, where we break down psychoanalytic concepts to understand our own minds. And today, using Sigmund Freud's discoveries, we're going to understand why you always attract the same types of problems, and more importantly, how to break these patterns once and for all. Because spoiler alert, the problem isn't with other people. The problem is something you carry within you, something Freud called the compulsion to repeat. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why your life feels like a movie that keeps replaying the same scenes, and how to change the script. Freud discovered something disturbing about the human mind. We have an unconscious tendency to repeat situations that caused us pain or trauma in the past. He called this the compulsion to repeat, and it's literally like there's an invisible force inside you that pushes you toward the same problematic situations over and over again. It's like that friend who always chooses the wrong partner, or that person who always gets into trouble at work, or you yourself always ending up involved with people who make you feel small. Freud said, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. But here's the catch. We don't remember because it's all stored in the unconscious. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine Carla, fictional name, but real story. Carla grew up with an extremely critical father. Nothing she did was good enough. She'd get a 9 on a test. He'd ask why it wasn't a 10. She'd clean the house. He'd find the corner she forgot. Today, at 30, Carla has changed jobs 5 times. What's the pattern? All her bosses were extremely critical and demanding. She always thought, wow, what bad luck, another impossible boss. But it's not bad luck, people. Carla's unconscious was seeking familiar situations. Because to the unconscious, familiar is safe, even if it's painful. Now you're probably thinking, but that doesn't make sense. Why would anyone seek suffering? And that's where Freud's genius lies. He discovered that the unconscious doesn't work with rational logic. The unconscious works with its own logic, the logic of repetition. For your unconscious, it's better to repeat a known situation, even if painful, than face the unknown. It's like preferring that messy house where you grew up over an organized but strange house. The unconscious prefers familiar pain to unknown happiness, and more. By repeating these situations, it keeps trying to solve the original trauma. It's like it's saying, this time will be different. This time I'll get my father's approval, only projected onto the current boss. Freud called this transference. You transfer feelings and expectations from the past onto people in the present. Now comes the part that might be hard to hear, but is liberating when you understand it. Your childhood created a mold for how you expect to be treated by the world. Freud said that by age 6, our personality is basically formed. Everything that happens after is variation on the same theme. If you grew up being constantly corrected, you'll attract people who correct you. If you grew up being ignored, you'll attract people who ignore you. If you grew up having to prove you deserve love, you'll attract people who make you feel inadequate. It's not masochism, people. It's unconscious programming. Let me tell you about Ricardo. Ricardo grew up with a mother who only gave attention when he was sick or had problems. On normal days, she was always busy, distant. Today, at 35, Ricardo has an interesting pattern. In relationships, he only feels loved when he's in crisis. When he's doing well, he feels like his girlfriend will abandon him. Result? He unconsciously creates crisis. He picks fights, creates drama, invents problems. Because to his unconscious, Crisis equals attention, equals love. And here's what's curious. He always ends up with women who only get emotionally involved when he's broken. Coincidence? Freud would say no. Freud discovered that we learn roles in the family and then keep repeating those roles in adult life. If you were the responsible one in the family, you'll attract irresponsible people to take care of. If you were the problematic one, you'll attract people who see you as a problem. If you were the poor thing, you'll attract people who save you or who make you feel like a victim. And the craziest thing, you don't do this consciously. Your unconscious has a radar to detect people who will reproduce these family dynamics. It's like you have an internal chip that only connects with people who will make you feel exactly like you felt at home as a child. Freud called this object choice. You choose people based on unconscious patterns, not real compatibility. That's why sometimes you meet someone and think, wow, this person irritates me, but at the same time you feel attracted. It's because they activated something very familiar in your unconscious. Now, I'm going to introduce you to the characters that probably circulate in your life. These are the types that always show up in different disguises, but with the same essential characteristics. Freud would say you attract these types because they represent important figures from your childhood, usually parents, but also siblings, grandparents, or caregivers. First type, the controller. This is that person who always knows what's best for you, who gives opinions about your clothes, your food, your work, your friends, who makes you feel like you're incapable of making decisions alone. Usually you attract this type if you had a very controlling parent in childhood. Your unconscious learned that being controlled is normal, even comforting, because it means someone cares. The controller can appear as a boss who micromanages everything, the partner who wants to change you, friend who always has constructive criticism, the family member who meddles in your life, and you, even while complaining, always end up accepting it. Because deep down, being controlled makes you feel cared for. Second type, the absent one. This is that person who's always almost available, but never completely present, who gives you crumbs of attention and leaves you always wanting more. You attract this type if you had an emotionally unavailable parent, someone who is physically present but emotionally distant. The absent one can appear as the partner who never defines the relationship, the friend who only shows up when they need something, boss who never gives you feedback, the family member who only calls on holidays, and you keep trying to win this person's full attention because your unconscious is trying to resolve, this time I'm going to get my father-mother to really see me. Third type, the critic. This is that person who always finds fault in what you do, who makes you feel like you're never good enough, that you could always be better. You attract this type if you grew up with someone very demanding or perfectionist, someone who only recognized your achievements when they were perfect. The critic can appear as the partner who always has something to improve about youth, friend who disguises insults as honesty, boss who's never satisfied with your work, the family member who compares you to others, and you stay in an eternal search for approval, because deep down you're still trying to prove you're good enough. What's most fascinating is that you don't attract these types by accident. You emit unconscious signals that say, I accept being treated this way. It's like you have an invisible sign on your forehead that says, looking for someone to control me, or I accept crumbs of affection, or you can criticize me. I can take it. And these types find you because they also have their own neuroses. It's an unconscious dance between two programmed people. Now comes the good part, how to break these patterns. Freud said, make the unconscious conscious. The first step is recognizing the patterns. And you've already taken that first step by watching this video. So let's do a quick exercise. Think of the last 3 people who caused you significant problems. Could be an ex-boyfriend, ex-boss, ex-friend. Now ask, What's the common trait among these people? Did they control you? Ignore you? Criticize you? Make you feel inadequate? This common trait is your unconscious signature. It's the pattern you repeat. Now ask, who in your childhood made you feel exactly like this? Father? Mother? Older sibling? Grandmother? There. You just mapped your repetition pattern. Second step, interrupt the pattern the moment it's happening. When you meet someone new, whether for work, friendship, or relationship, pay attention to the first signs. Your unconscious will try to push you toward the familiar pattern. If you notice you're feeling small around someone, stop and ask, wait, is this feeling familiar? Where have I felt this before? If you notice you're trying too hard to impress someone, stop and ask, why do I need to prove my worth to this person? If you notice you're accepting treatment you wouldn't accept from other people, stop and ask, why am I making an exception for this person? Freud said repetition is automatic, but consciousness can interrupt it. Third step, make conscious choices based on what you want, not what's familiar. This is the hardest part, because it goes against all your unconscious programming. You'll feel uncomfortable, anxious, like you're doing it wrong. But it's exactly this discomfort that indicates you're breaking the pattern. Some practical strategies. 1. Reverse the script. If you always attract controllers, practice saying no. If you always attract absent people, practice demanding presence. If you always attract critics, practice not justifying yourself. 2. Seek the unknown. Consciously approach people who make you feel different from usual. If you always feel smaller, look for people who make you feel equal. If you're always in control, practice trusting. 3. Tolerate anxiety. When you break a pattern, the unconscious panics. You'll feel anxiety, like something is wrong. That's normal. Breathe and continue. 4. Be patient. Freud said changing patterns takes time. You didn't program your mind in 30 years. You won't reprogram it in 30 days. Remember, you're not destined to repeat the same problems forever. You have a choice. But first, you need to make the choice conscious. So, recapping what we learned today. First, you don't attract the same types of problems by bad luck. There's an unconscious force called compulsion to repeat that pushes you toward familiar situations, even if painful. Second, this programming happened in your childhood. You learned relationship patterns in the family and now repeat them with everyone. Third, there are specific types you always attract: the controller, the absent one, the critic, because they represent important figures from your past. Fourth, you can break these cycles through 3 steps. Recognize the patterns, interrupt when they're happening, and make conscious choices even if they make you uncomfortable. Remember, Freud said, where ID was, there ego shall be. In other words, where there was automaticity, consciousness must arrive. Before I finish, I want to leave you with a reflection. Freud didn't discover these things to make you feel bad or guilty about your past. He discovered them to give you power over your future. When you understand your repeating patterns, you stop feeling like a victim of circumstances. You stop thinking you're unlucky, or that it always happens to me. You understand that you have programming, and all programming can be reprogrammed. It's not easy, it's not quick, but it's possible. And the first time you break a pattern that's been with you for years, you'll feel a freedom you haven't felt since childhood. It's worth it. Now I want to hear from you. What pattern did you identify in your life? What type do you always attract? Write it in the comments. Let's create a conversation that can help everyone. And if this video made you think differently about your relationships, leave a like, because that really helps me continue bringing Freud in an accessible way. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell, because next week I'm going to talk about a topic that will shock you. Your unconscious controls your decisions, and you don't even know it. Thanks for watching. And remember, you're not condemned to repeat. You have a choice. See you next time.